So in part 1, I graded bench players. If you haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out. In part 2, I'm going to be grading the starters. With that, let's jump straight into it. As far as starters go, Maurice Harkless, from me, gets a D-. I'm not going to give him an F because he's been unhealthy so far this season, and I'm not really blaming him for these struggles, and I'm not saying he can't get out of this. I honestly think that he can raise his three-point percentage back up to where it has been in the past few years, 34, 35%. I do think his energy level will improve during the second part of the season, but so far this season, he's definitely struggled. How much of that is his knee? How much of that is just his attitude? Only he knows. But I'd definitely like to see him at least bring it a little bit more on the defensive end and then keep moving off the ball. If he does that, he can still be an impactful, positive player for the team, even if his three-point shot isn't falling. Al-Farouq Aminu from me gets a B-. This dude has definitely improved his ball handling, even though you'll get a lot of Blazer fans and a lot of radio guys to say, oh, he's a walking turnover. Even though Al-Farouq Aminu plays around 30 minutes per game and gets less than 1 turnover per game. He still looks a little out of control with his dribble, especially in transition, but this isn't a guy that's turning over the ball off of his dribble anymore. This isn't a guy that's throwing wild, crazy passes because he's out of control with his dribble. This isn't a guy that's bad off the dribble anymore. He also gets to the rim at a surprisingly consistent rate and is finishing better this year than he ever has. This has been his most efficient season of his career, and that's with his three-point percentage not really improving much from the past 2 years. He's still an average three-point shooter by NBA standards, but his finishing inside the arc, especially around the rim, has taken a big jump this season, while everything else has remained pretty constant. Jusuf Nurkic gets an A- from me. He's finally taken that next step. He's getting to the free throw line more, and in turn, that's making his game more efficient. He's also taking his time a little bit more inside the arc, using a pump fake more, and that's something that I wanted to see from him, and that's something that I said in his player breakdown. In that player breakdown, I also asked for his passing to make a return to where it was right after we traded for him, and we've seen that as well. His defense is still pretty elite. His rebounding is definitely elite. And he's one of the most underrated centers in the league. And this year he's finally starting to get some respect due to his improvement. And this guy is still young. He still has a couple more years in which you can expect to see jumps like this from Jusuf Nurkic. You know he's having a good season when there's people talking about him being a future all-star and if he deserves consideration this season. I didn't think he deserved consideration this year, but next year, year after that, if the Blazers are winning a lot of games and he makes a little bit of improvement as well, he definitely deserves to be in consideration for an all-star game. CJ McCollum gets a C- from me. He's not any less efficient than he has been in years prior. His mid-range game and finishing around the rim is at elite levels compared to the rest of his career. And his mid-range right now is definitely elite compared to the rest of the league. He's in the top 5 for jump shot shooting within the arc. His three-point percentage has dipped, but it was making a little bit of a climb. It got back up to over 36%, but this is a guy who we know is a 40% three-point shooter. 36% is definitely low for him, and for a guy who doesn't get to the line and shoots a lot of mid-range jumpers, he definitely needs to be able to hit three-point shots at a 40% clip to be considered an efficient player. So right now he's a volume scorer, mediocre, near average efficiency, but his defense is a problem. The way he dominates the ball sometimes has been a problem, and his lack of passing is a problem. He talked about improving his passing going into the season and not dominating the ball as much, and instead he regressed in those areas, which was a big disappointment. This is a guy who watches a lot of film and is a smart basketball player, so I expected him to be able to figure it out. But this might be a case of not being able to teach an old dog new tricks. I was hoping CJ's defense could improve a little bit, instead it's regressed. I was hoping his passing and ball dominance could improve a little bit, instead that's regressed, and then his three-point shooting's regressed. That's why I give him a C-. I would give him a worse grade if he wasn't as efficient as he has been in prior years, but his shooting inside the two-point arc is definitely keeping his efficiency at a near average level, and frankly it's what's keeping him worth starting. And then Damian Lillard, I give him a B, because this is the first year that he hasn't really improved. He hasn't regressed at all. he's still playing at the same level, and he'll tell you that he feels more comfortable, he feels like he's a better player than last year, but just statistically, he hasn't made a jump at all. But then again, him just repeating what he did last year as a guy who made first team all NBA and was 4th in MVP voting, I'll take it. His leadership is still top notch, he still brings that 3-point shooting. I'd say he's a little bit better of a 3-point shooter this year, still gets to the line, still hits his free throws over 90%. His defense is definitely not as bad as CJ's. His defense is getting pretty close to average. He'll have flashes where he's actually really good defensively. And this is about the season I expected from Dame. I was hoping his efficiency could continue to climb a little bit. I was hoping maybe he could get 27, 28 points per game, but that's based on more of an individual viewpoint because I want this dude to get the respect that he deserves around the league, and they look at numbers. As far as his team impact, he's still one of the most positively impactful players in the league in regards to not only on the court production and what he does for his team on the floor, but also the culture he sets and what he does for his team off of it. So anyway, that's my player grades. Let me know if you disagree with any down in the comment section below. Let me know some of your grades and what you think. And that's all I got for now, True Blazer fans. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm out of here. I'll see you later. Peace out. Go Blazers.